This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Goodadab, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this date, February 6, 1970, the NBA decides to go from 14 teams to 18 teams, as you can see in the paper article of the New York Times, that basketball would expand to 4 new cities: Buffalo, Cleveland, Portland, and Houston, thus giving the NBA 18 teams instead of the regular 14 teams. So the NBA really wanted to add new teams. They had 14 teams, which wasn't half bad. I mean, it was kind of close to, um, you know, everything. Yeah, because hockey and basketball almost had the same amount of teams and all of that. So the 69-70 season saw 14 teams. In the East, it was New York, Milwaukee, Baltimore, before they moved to Washington, Philadelphia, Cincinnati Royals, the former home of the Sacramento Kings. Well, they moved to Kansas City, then Sacramento, the Boston Celtics, and Detroit. The West had Atlanta, yeah, just like the NFL. They were in the West, even though they were in Georgia, where by proxy it should have been maybe Milwaukee in the West, because Milwaukee was in Wisconsin, which is far west than Georgia. The LA Lakers, Chicago, yeah, Chicago was in the West, kind of makes sense a little bit. Phoenix, Seattle, San Francisco Warriors, aka Golden State Warriors, and San Diego Rockets. So those were the 14 teams. Now, unfortunately, Houston had some issues with financial problems. So that meant that Houston could not get an expansion team. So they were screwed. However, a couple years later, Houston would get their NBA team, not by expansion, but by the fact San Diego wanted to sell. So the San Diego Rockets were no more. They were the Houston Rockets. I kind of forgot that the Houston Rockets didn't exist from Houston at the start. They were in San Diego first. Because I know the San Diego Clippers were around, and then they moved to LA to become the LA Clippers. But still, I mean, that was weird. Yeah, San Diego got their franchise back with the Clippers after Buffalo moved to San Diego. But anyway, so yeah, it was nice to see Buffalo, Cleveland, and Portland getting a team and all that. Buffalo would have to go through some stuff. They were around for 7 years, and then they moved to San Diego in 78, and then to LA in 84 to be the LA Clippers. Cleveland, the team that LeBron built into a title holder, and Portland, who won the title in 1977. So anyway, it was pretty impressive to see these teams, and Houston getting their team kind of that way. So anyway, yeah, it was amazing what Cleveland could do and all that. So they did what they could, and that's what you do. So yeah, so they would start the 1970-71 season. There were some transfers of conferences and all that, but still, yeah, 3 teams to make it 17 teams instead of 18, because Houston didn't have the expansion team. But it didn't matter. I mean, Cleveland got a title, Portland got a title, Buffalo did not get a title, even with San Diego or the Clippers, even get to the finals, much less winning a title. So you got to feel bad for Buffalo. But the good news about the Buffalo Braves is that they actually played some home games at Maple Leaf Gardens. So Canadians got to watch basketball happen. And, it brought Canadians back to maybe loving basketball and all that. By the early 90s, David Stern decided, you know what, we should expand to Canada. And the 2 expansion teams in 95 were both Canadian, Toronto and Vancouver. Toronto had a love affair with basketball. Watching a lot of the games from Cleveland, or even New York, or even Buffalo when they were in Buffalo, when the Braves were in Buffalo. So yeah, so Canada was an untapped market in a sense. And let's not forget the 94 World Championships in Toronto were big. World Basketball Championships were big in Toronto. Like, fans sold out the Skydome. They decided to have the Final Four at the Skydome, and there were a lot of seats. Well, U.S. had Shaq and all of them. Yeah, and it brought the Raptors to greatness. So yeah, people forget that Buffalo used to play some games in Toronto, and that's the truth. And I know it's a short sports catastrophe, but you know what? When you make additions to your team, your league, and they become successful, you have to report on it. Anyway, I'm Drift. I'm gonna do.